What if you're a teenager eligible to get vaccinated for COVID, but your folks are against it? Like, really against it? 20-year-old Ethan Lindenberger of Norwalk, Ohio, knows exactly what that's like. Hey, Ethan, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I can be here.
When you turned 18, you went against your mom's wishes to become up to date with all of your vaccinations. Until then, you hadn't gotten a single shot. How did it become so important to you?
As I was growing up, I heard my mom talk openly about her beliefs that were very anti-vaccine. She believed vaccines caused autism and brain damage and weren't safe or beneficial to anyone. And so it really became important to me to get vaccinated and to educate myself when I started slowly seeing there was a large community in the scientific field and outside my house that believed vaccines were really important and that they were safe and they had a lot of good benefits. And so that difference in perspectives and the confusion and curiosity I had, seeing people disagree with my mom so fervently, that just caused me to ask the questions. And slowly, I discovered that vaccines were really, really important. And deeper knowledge led to me becoming more and more invested.
Now, where was your mom getting her information?
Before I was born, she had friends and people told her stories and told her to read specific books. And she became slowly anti-vaccine. I'd say she was more hesitant at that time. And she only got some vaccines for my siblings. And by the time I was born, I only had a polio vaccine. That was the only vaccine she got me. And after that, she was done. And so I was born in 2000. And so after that was where she really became anti-vax. And when Facebook was created a few years later, she got into specific communities that got her way more, I would say, escalated in her beliefs. And
Mhm.
so it was rooted in a lot of personal friends and testimonies and books that were coming out at the time, but then it grew because of the internet.
Okay, okay. Now, as we all know, a lot of kids are on the internet. They're getting a lot of different types of information from there. Is that going to be a problem for kids that they're perhaps not getting the most accurate info and not from the right places?
It can be a concern that a lot of people are doing their research online. Statistically, we've seen that Gen Z and some younger generations have lower vaccination rates than we would like. And you could determine that's because of internet research being done. But there also could be other factors at play. It's hard to define why that's taking place statistically. Um, and also, I would say on top of that, it's more concerning that people are doing online research when we don't provide good education going into that, because the internet has all types of information, good and bad. And so it's not as much the fault of the internet, but the fault of a lack of education, preparation in terms of how you handle it. It's like going out to the real world and interacting with strangers. There'll be good strangers and bad strangers. You got to know when to engage and when not to, and how you identify the tells and the signs of what's reliable and what might be dangerous. It doesn't mean that it's bad to go out and talk to strangers. It means you got to be careful.
Okay, you fought your battle before the pandemic. You fought that battle to get vaccinated. Now, kids who have lived through this pandemic have even more challenges, it seems. I mean, right now, only 9 states allow teenagers to get vaccines
Right.
without parent permission.
Right.
So, how should kids go about finding out and discussing with their parents, having that conversation about getting vaccinated?
The advice I give to young people is, if you know you can have a loving and understanding conversation with your parents, please do that. And try and have that conversation and vocalize why you want to get vaccinated, your concerns about your own health and safety. But if you say that and you are worried about serious consequences, your parents not trusting you, your parents taking away your phone or kicking you out, like those are serious concerns for some young people, then maybe wait and weigh those consequences seriously. It's not as easy to just go get vaccinated and deal with it later.
Sure. And is this the approach that you've taken with your own mother?
Absolutely. I knew growing up that my mom was very anti-vaccine, and because of the legal restrictions, I really wasn't trying to fight her on getting me vaccinated. She
Mhm.
believed vaccines could kill me, and so it was not going to be an easy time being like, "Hey, I want to do this thing, and go basically jump off a cliff and see if I survive." And I just was educating myself slowly. And when I was 18, I said, "Hey, this is my decision now, but I'm still going to communicate it. I'm not going to hide it from you. I want you to understand where I'm coming from." And she still didn't respond great, but the fundamental reason I was talking to her in the first place and saying what I thought was out of respect.
Mhm.
And I think that's important regardless of if you're able to consent to it or not. I think regardless if you're 16 or 22, if you still live with your parents and they're anti-vaccine, I would prefer having that conversation, recommend not hiding it and being open and honest.
Yeah. So any chance in convincing her to get the COVID vaccine?
No, no. My mom is very anti-vaccine, and I mean like the 1% of the 1% that are so deeply ingrained that it's not even just the anti-vaccine conspiracies, but the anti-mask, anti-science conspiracy theories, holistic medicine, the whole
Yeah.
bunch. And that's not uncommon. It's just that like people that are so deeply down that rabbit hole find other rabbit holes. And for her, it's just that it's progressed that much. So I don't look at her as like almost recruitable to reality in a way of like trying to have the conversation and convince her she's wrong. I just understand she believes that. I understand that what I believe is right, and I try and bridge that gap with respect and love. But my time and energy is spent into talking to people that are hesitant, people that are asking questions rather than saying they know what's true. And
Yeah.
I think that's more productive.
So, and her reaction to you, the two of you being so far apart on this issue? You're a vaccine advocate now.
Right. It would be a lie to say that my advocacy has not impacted our relationship, because at some level, what she views my advocacy as is very different than what's really happening. She views my advocacy as the advocacy of young people being maimed and injured and murdered, right? People that are going and getting vaccinated and having serious consequences and repercussions. And because of how deep she is in this misinformation, and that perspective, it definitely does warp her view of me as a person, because what kind of person advocates for young people to die and become injured? That's a pretty bad thing to do. And obviously it's not happening. And I know that, so I'm able to remain empathetic, but the impact is still there. And it's obviously caused a divide. And do we talk as much? No. Do we have the same type of relationship? Absolutely not. And do I see her as often? I don't. And there's been some huge changes. And that's the reality of the anti-vaccine world, is that it damages families, it damages communities, and it hurts people.
All right, Ethan Lindenberger, it's so great to speak with you today. Thanks for sharing.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for watching. This is Health Day Now. I'm Mabel Jong.